What is going on, everybody? We are back. Another episode of the CC podcast with the one and only Jacob Allen Nielsen. How you doing, beautiful? Pew, 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 pew.
Duke. Dude, we need sound effects for the show.
I know. I'm not talented.
We need a sound. Obviously, we're stuck in quarantine, but when we get back to the office, we need to.
Dude,
you know what I'm saying?
100%. What is going on, Jacob Allen Nielsen? How are you today?
Dude, I'm excited to be here. I want some sound effects. I want some theatrics for the CC podcast. But Mike and I are out here just talking about life. We're going to share with you guys a couple ridiculous stories, and then we're going to go ahead and get into a deeper topic. So I'm excited about today. I'm excited to where God is going to take us. I'm excited for Mike's first story, his experience, just, his truth, some might say.
My truth, yeah.
So Mike, share your truth.
My truth. Well, first and foremost, our thing that we're going to be talking about at the end of the episode, the more important thing, Jacob didn't mention this, is we're going to be talking about how we as believers, we as people can have joy in the midst of whatever circumstance we find ourselves in. And so we're going to tackle that a little bit later. But my first story I want to share is me at Starbucks the other day. Hannah's pregnant. We all know this. She goes, Mike, I'm really just craving.
How pregnant is she?
We just hit this week of the third trimester, bro. The final stretch.
The thing's coming out soon.
It's nuts, bro. Freaking nuts.
That aside, anyways, we got to get a baby update. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When a pregnant lady tells you what she wants in terms of consumption, food, drink, whatever it may be, you go get it for her. It just is what it is. I push back a little bit just to be like, check your heart. And then I go get it. But she goes, I just really want
pie.
Shut up.
Sorry, dude. Just putting you on blast.
I just want a decaf vanilla latte from Starbucks. Go get it. All right, whatever. So I'm heading to the Starbucks, right? And it's the Starbucks drive-through by the traffic circle. Okay. You know exactly what Starbucks I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Now,
yep.
Every time I go to that Starbucks, because of where I live, I pull off of I pull into the weed parking lot, and I pull through that parking lot, hang a right,
go around.
Raising Cane's is on your left, and then I take a right into the drive-through.
Gotcha.
Now,
okay.
People also come from the traffic circle side. So they come in on the other side of the Starbucks. They come in, and then they take a left into the drive-through. Okay.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? So I'm coming from the side that I need to take a right, the alleyway, and they're coming on the same road as me this way, trying to take a left.
Yep.
Now, I get going, right, and I see that there is a car behind me waiting, and there's 3 cars, whatever, that just pulled in from the other side of the street. One, it looked like it had been sitting there. I honestly don't really know how long they've been sitting there. But there's a lot of different businesses around that area. They could be going anywhere. You know what I mean? So this car's sitting there, got its blinker on. So I flash my lights at them to be like, hey, I'm not driving straight through. I'm going right to Starbucks as well. So go in front of me. So they went in front, and then I just pulled behind, like you go every other type of thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these cars start getting really mad at me that I'm not in the line. And I go, I go this way every single day. Never had a problem, right? So I just keep going. And then they start honking at me. So I roll down my window. This guy's like, this is the line. And I'm like, since when? I go, I came off the street. I'm just, And he goes, since always. I'm like, all right, bro, no big deal. You can go in front of me. No problem. So he goes in front of me. Second car that I've let it go.
Yeah.
Then the lady, and then I pull behind this guy. The lady behind him and her Honda Pilot starts rolling down her window, cussing me out. You mother effer, you're a piece of, just going off. She goes, why would you let him in and not me? It's because I'm a woman. You wouldn't let me in. Just starts going off, dude, going off at me. And I'm like,
oh no.
First off, why are you so frustrated? Like, why? Like, I felt bad because I'm like, why is this? Like, I could not imagine allowing something like that to affect my day so much.
Totally.
But she's cussing me out, right? Just laying into me. And she goes, this is the line, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. I have the right of way. And I look at her and I go, actually, and I said this kindly, I'm saying it kind of sarcastically now, but I go, actually, I'm the one taking a right from my lane, and you have to cross my lane of traffic to get in. So technically I have the right of way. And then she's just continually cussing me out. In the process of her cussing me out, I'm not in a hurry. I don't really care. I'm going to get my
Yeah.
coffee. I'm telling her, it's fine. You can go in front of me. No big deal.
Right.
Continuing to cuss me out over and over
Right.
and over again. And then I finally just go, are you going to let me talk? Because I've been trying to tell you, you can go in front of me. She gets in front of me. She's yelling at me the whole time through, all this kind of stuff. And then the car behind her just looks at me. It's like this couple, and they're just dying laughing.
Yeah.
Just dying laughing, and they just wave at me, and they're like, go get your coffee, bro.
I love that.
But yeah,
dude,
it was wild. It was a wild situation.
Hopefully she was just having a bad morning.
Hopefully. I pray that's not how she operates, like on a daily basis.
Because you can't exist on this earth if that's like the things that get you that heated, you know?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, I don't think I've ever been cussed out that bad in my life.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Maybe something else.
That's crazy. Maybe the quarantine's affecting her, you know? Some people
exactly.
this is the breaking point, I feel like, for some people.
If I'm being honest with you, I wanted to be kind of petty by paying for her drink just to like a little jab, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Mostly because I was not doing it out of being kind. I was doing it to just jab at her.
To be like,
so I'd be like, you were the one that was being extremely rude.
Good call.
But I didn't do it. She ended up getting her coffee for free anyways, because I could hear the conversation in front of me.
Oh God.
Whatever, not a big deal. But
that's
wild. That was my story. That was my experience earlier this week at Starbucks in Long Beach, California, near the traffic circle. Apparently, according to these two cars, you're not supposed to pull off of the alleyway and turn in. You have to come off the street. So.
Oh, interesting.
But I disagree with that philosophy.
Oh. Well, because it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Also, there's no
signs. Go all the way around. Right. That's their own fault. If you don't have signage, you can't tell me crap, boy.
It's literally a road. It's a road that goes this way, and then the business is here. So either side you come on the road, you should. Totally. All right. Whatever. All right. What's your story, bro?
Dude, okay, here's my story. Okay, this is back in high school. I was 15 years old. Okay, sophomore in high school. Yeah, and the story's not even about me. It's just a situation. It's about my truth and what I witnessed. So I was I have an uncle who's younger than me. His name is Jimmy Martin. He went to Milligan High School. You probably saw him at the wedding, Mike. And we were watching him play baseball. Okay, he was a decent baseball player. He got hit in the face like later on this season and stopped playing because he was kind of a little traumatized after that, which makes sense. He got drilled in the mouth. So
that's a real thing.
Or like broke his nose. So it was like, yeah, he's just like, I'm not going to play again. Makes sense. Anyway, so we went to one of his games. It was myself, my grandma Luann, and my grandpa Tom, aka Jimmy's dad, aka my white grandparent. So we were there watching the game, and we're chilling. You know, I'm sitting there getting rowdy, excited, shouting, whatever. Then my grandparents, so Luann and Tom, they know this like family that's sitting below us. They're having fun. I'm being ridiculous, saying chants, and they're like enjoying it. It's a good time. So then my grandpa Tom goes and gets popcorn. Just normal, good old fashioned ballpark popcorn from the little concession stand. You know, it's been sitting there for like 3 hours. It's a little crusty, whatever. Yep. So got a bag of popcorn. So we're talking, chatting. He's eating his popcorn. So then guess what happens, dude? He gets a handful of popcorn, and sometimes you get too much and it dribbles and it falls. Okay.
Yep.
So this woman was wearing jeans. Okay. And you know how sometimes like if a girl's not wearing a belt, their jeans can kind of like, if they're sitting, they can kind of go out. Yep. So my grandpa drops a piece of popcorn in this lady's butt crack, bro. So he drops a piece of kernel in her freaking butt crack. She doesn't feel it because I don't think it touched her skin. It was between her underwear and her like jeans. Obviously I didn't inspect, but like I'm assuming. So I'm sitting here, I'm dying because I'm like, this lady has freaking popcorn in her butt crack. She has no idea. My grandpa Tom is embarrassed so that he doesn't know what to do. So then he goes like he's playing like one of those claw machine games.
No, he did not.
Yes. He goes, takes the popcorn out of this lady's butt crack, and she doesn't know.
What?
So he retrieved the popcorn kernel out of this lady's butt crack.
Unbelievable.
I know. It was hilarious. And I was just laughing. I started clapping, cheering for him.
That's like that
and
game. What's that game called?
yeah, one of those claw games at the arcades where you go get the little things.
God.
And my grandma was sitting
Is it
there dying.
Operator? Where it
I
like
don't
buzzes
know,
you?
Daryl. Yeah. Oh yeah. Operation.
Operation.
That's what it is. Yeah. And so my grandma was sitting there because my grandma's embarrassed. Her face is
Yeah.
red. She doesn't know what to do. So I'm dying laughing, but he performed it well. He performed the surgery with
That is amazing.
precision accuracy.
That is so good.
But it's just one of the stories that always like sticks out to me of just being ridiculous and like literally like belly laughing. I couldn't control myself.
That is
and the family
so
turns
good.
around, they're like, "What's going on?" And we're just like, "We don't know." So,
Nothing.
anyways,
You just had popcorn in your butt crack, and we got it out.
we got
Thank
it
you.
out. I
Or
love
you're
that.
welcome.
I know. I kind of wish like he messed up and then dropped it further in, or like accidentally touched her and it just turned around, smacked his face. Dude, how crazy would that be?
It would have been a great scene for a movie.
It would have been.
Gosh.
It would have been.
Speaking of butt cracks, it makes me think of another story.
Okay, let's hear it, dude.
This is from high school as well. I'm the worst. I'm just a jerk. So I don't know about here. Do you have to go to like driving school to get your license before you're 16 here?
Yeah.
Or do you just have to pass the test?
Before you're 16? Yeah. You need to have driver's ed. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 15 and a half.
Okay.
I'm in driver's ed. And I'm sitting at this place called 911 Driving School right by my house. Okay. So I'm there. I'm sitting in class. No big deal. This guy's teaching, right? There's this dude sitting in front of me, leaning forward, kind of like I'm leaning right now, and his butt cracks out. Okay.
Yes. Plumber.
Me being a jerk, I'm sitting there behind him, just trying to annoy him because his butt cracks out. I'm like, how does he not know his butt cracks out? So I'm just going like this from the row behind. Just blowing on his butt crack. Dude, just so terrible. I'm doing this. And he like looks back, like moves or whatever, continue to do it. I just keep on doing it.
He didn't adjust his pants?
No, didn't adjust his pants, but he just like kept noticing. And eventually, dude, this kid, I don't even remember his name. I don't know who he was, lost his mind. Turn around. Can you knock it off? Just screaming in the middle of class. And the teacher's like, what is going on? And he goes, he keeps blowing on my butt crack. And I'm just sitting there. I got kicked out of class that day, and I had to retake that day of class over again and then I had to call my mom. Mom, I was in trouble. I was blowing on this dude's butt crack.
A kid's butt crack. Dude, that's the worst, bro. Is like the embarrassing stuff you do in elementary, junior high, high school. You have to call your parents and tell them what you did.
Yep. So this is what I did. I need you to pick me up.
Right. It's absurd. Like in third grade, I was late to class because I had to go poop during nutrition, and it was longer than a 10-minute dump. You know what I mean? I was playing with my friends, and then I took a long poop, and I had to write a note to my mom telling her like, hey, sorry, Mom, I had to go poop and it took a long time. So then I'd give my mom the note to sign. She signed it, was laughing at me, and I gave it back to my teacher. And it was like, what the freak is this? What is my existence? So I hope
is so funny.
And I hope like my hope is like people that are listening right now are sitting here reflecting, maybe not on butt crack stories. If you got a butt crack story, we'd love for you to share it with us. Just send us a quick text. That'd be funny.
Yeah, that'd bring us joy.
Yeah, or just like the stupid crap you got in trouble for and then had to tell your parents about because you're an idiot elementary schooler. So I hope I hope somebody gives us some so I could sit there and laugh at them or with them more like it. But
I love that. I'm mostly laugh at if you're being honest.
Dude, so let's move into our next segment, and I'll let you kind of lead the way because this is something that's been on your heart specifically. So take it away, brother.
So we're going to be talking about joy and how we have joy in the midst of times that are difficult. And if I'm being honest with you, it's been on my heart really a lot in the last week since this story with this lady at the Starbucks. Because I was just thinking about like, yeah, sure, she's probably in a situation where this quarantine's getting to her. She was having a bad day, that sort of thing. But it just made me think about how we can allow very, very small situations in our life to be these really, really big things and affect the whole entire day or whatever it is that's going on. And so thinking about how we can operate out of the framework where we're going to for lack of better terms, like choose to live in the joy that we've been given by the Lord, rather than allowing the circumstance to affect how we react to things. And something that I think is important to understand is the difference between joy and happiness. And like happiness, and we were talking even before we got on here, that like happiness is more of like this feeling that you experience of like, oh, I haven't seen my wife in a week and I see her for the first time and I'm full of happiness, that experience, or even that feeling of joy that feels good, but that can be taken away at any moment because other things can happen. And so before we start talking about it, just like, we're not talking about the feeling of like, I feel happy or I feel joyful all the time, but like, how can we live in a way that no matter what it is that gets thrown at us, no matter if your boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you, no matter if you are feeling lonely in the middle of this quarantine or whatever it is, like you can still be full of joy, even if you don't feel it. You know what I mean? And so I'm excited for us to talk about it. What are some just initial thoughts on that topic do you think of?
Yeah, I think there's several people in my mind that I think of like are just truly joyful people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know those people, it's not just a feeling of like, once we were talking about like just feeling happy for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Because God has created all these emotions for us to feel, whether that is being angry, frustrated, sad, heartbroken. Like, there's a reason we feel all of those things. And we're not wanting you guys to become some weird, mindless robots that are only happy on the surface. But, you know, we have a deep complexity of emotions. And like, this joy that we're talking about isn't just something that's on the surface or just in our quick emotions, but it's like almost like a state of being, or like who we are as Christ followers is having this joy that's you know, kind of eternal, not just you know, comes and goes, but it's something that we should have forever. And so that's like my first thing is like wanting you guys to know, you know, we don't expect you to guys be like happy, weird, creepy robots, because we have a vast majority of emotions that God has created for us to feel. And you know, it's okay to be angry. I don't
Which
think
are helpful too. Like those feelings help protect us and those sorts of things. So
super helpful. And so like we aren't supposed to, we're not supposed to stay angry, obviously, but like it's okay to be angry. And so, you know, making sure you're checking your heart if that's something that's continual. Anyways, but that was the first thing that popped in my head, is like wanting, you know, people to realize there's not this weird like upper echelon of like always being joy because you don't ever feel anything else. So that was the first thing that popped in my head. Wanted to make sure that we get across clearly. But
yeah, that's awesome. I think about myself when I was younger, and this has became something that's been a lot easier for me in the last couple years, and I think it's because I have been able to see, like, I think, and you can probably testify this, when you look back on your life and the things that you went through, all of the things from junior high, high school, early childhood, when you look back on those things now as a Christ follower, someone that is a little bit more mature in their faith, at least for me, it's easier to see where God was moving in those situations in order to get me to where I am currently. And so, for example, I'm sure she'll be fine with me sharing this, but like last night I was having a conversation with Hannah, and she has been feeling lonely during this time of quarantine. You know, it's been hard for her to not be around family with her being pregnant, all of those sorts of things. It's been really difficult. And she's been praying and asking God, just, I feel like I don't really have very many people to talk to. We are not from California. We haven't been we've been at the church for over a year, but not a crazy amount of time, you know? And then also as a pastor's wife, I feel like sometimes she feels like I have to be a certain person. And so I can't be completely transparent with people at times, you know? It's just a hard thing that she has to wrestle with. And so she's been praying for like friends that are Christians that like she can just be open and not worry about those sorts of things. And so last night she had a phone call with her old youth group leader from high school.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And she started a Bible study with all of these ladies from 20 years old to 70 years old on a
Oh
Zoom
wow.
call yesterday.
That's sick.
And she goes, it was so refreshing to sit and like just be with people and just talk. And like,
Yeah.
I didn't have to be like a pastor at the church's wife. I could just be
Right.
like Hannah, you know?
Yep.
And what struck me about what she said was like that prayer that she had been praying for recently, because the situation has made her feel lonely. God had
Right.
been working that out 6 years ago when she met
Totally.
this leader.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to get to is as you get older, you begin to see a lot of those things happen.
Yeah.
And it allows you to be able to see like what you're going through in the moment is like very small in terms of like the whole grand scheme. And when you start to see those things play out and you're like, oh, God was in that, and now it's like working out for my good, and he did answer that prayer, it
Right.
allows us to be able to trust him when we are in that situation that is really, really hard,
Yeah.
and we are not feeling good emotions about it. We can have peace and we can have joy because we know God is in control and we actually
Totally.
trust him, you know?
Yeah.
So that was something that like this week I was just like, that is something that I
Yeah.
think is so true, that I think I have the luxury of as I continue to get older. You know, I mean, granted, I'm 25, but like in comparison to a 12-year-old student, they don't have as much like vision backwards of like where
Right.
God had been moving. And I think you get that as you get a little bit older. So,
Totally. And that just reminds me of like the story of Joshua and the
mhm.
12 stones and putting them in the river of like you can look back on this and see what
Mhm.
God did in like
Yep.
times where things are hard or difficult. And
Yeah.
so we do get, as we get older, we get the full scope of like what God has been doing through our
Yeah.
entire lives to then bring us to a point where we're here. And so I think that's just a cool reflection of like God's sovereignty and being able just to deliver us from something that was, for such a long period of time, and building those relationships up over 6 years is like,
For
that's
sure.
cool that she's able to, have like a really fruitful and good relationship that
Hmm.
she's been praying for. So that's super rad. And I think like, we can tie joy just with hope as well, and like understanding that there is like an internal there's something like an internal glory with God that we get to have like later on,
Hmm.
despite the pain and suffering that we feel right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, as being human beings that only understands what our life looks like in our narrow scope, and
Yeah.
God obviously being the Alpha and the Omega, creator of time, the beginning and the end, his we have like an eternity spent with him like after this is all over. And
Yeah.
there's like these things that we experience on this earth are going to be gone away, and we're just going to be made new later on. And so like
Hmm.
that hope that we get to have should then bring us joy, just this excitement almost at times of like, okay, this momentary pain that I'm feeling will eventually go away,
Yeah.
and being able to experience that. And we're going to talk about joy, and like just I'm excitable, you're excitable,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just think about like all the times, and we could relate this back to joy, but like all the times in the Bible it talks like about shouting and singing with joy, and like
Yeah.
this just overwhelming experience of like being excited and getting
Yeah.
our emotions excited about what God's
Hmm.
doing,
Yeah.
which just gets me pumped up, because like when we use it, when we see an exclamation point, like we should be saying it with
Yeah.
like a loudness, right? Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
like bless the Lord. It should be like bless the Lord. Like
Yeah.
there's like this feeling of excitement, and
Mhm.
that's where that joy comes from, for us to be able to experience like, okay, God wants us to be excited about him and to
Yeah.
have fun, and to jump up and down, and maybe and shout with joy. So I
Yeah.
don't know, just something I reflect on, because as Bethany, um, you know, tied to like Southern Baptist roots, and a
Yeah.
lot of people are not as excitable or
Yeah.
not willing to jump up and to
Yeah.
yell and to
Hmm.
shout as God has commanded us to do so, in his name. Not just to, obviously we shouldn't be saying amen to make ourselves feel good,
For
but
sure.
because we agree with the speaker or whatever. But I don't know, that's something as a church, and probably just as a nation, we could do better of just showing that we're excited about what God's doing in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. I think sometimes we have this idea that if I don't feel excited, I can't be excited.
Right.
You know, like I don't feel that emotion of joy, and so I'm not going to act out of it.
Yep.
When I think we shouldn't be living out of letting our emotions affect how we live, like
Yeah.
determine how we choose to live in circumstances. Like
Yeah.
I I don't want to say like we should fake it till we make it, but like there
Right.
are definitely times where I show up on a Sunday night that I don't feel the happiness or the joy or the
Right.
excitement that I need to be able
Right.
to um, do a Sunday night. But I know that God is good. I
Mm-hmm.
know that He is the greatest thing in my life. I know that He is powerful. I know that He is exciting, whether I'm
Yeah.
feeling like He is right now or not. And so I can choose to, like, I'm going to be pumped up about this and allow my feelings to catch up with it, you know? Or I even
Yeah.
think about, like, not on the topic of joy, but on the topic of like, would it be sorrow or yeah, maybe sorrow. Like if there's times where I'm in a very excitable mood and
Right.
I'm pumped up and I'm not feeling the like the heavy emotional part of myself. Like I'm not
Sure.
experiencing that. And a student will come to me with something that is heavy and hard.
All right.
And in that moment, I can't go, I don't feel that like comfort feeling
Right.
right now.
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
excited. Let's be pumped. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
have to like what I know to be the right response. I have to
Right.
like live that out and allow my personal feelings that like I can't necessarily control be informed by how I live.
Yeah.
And I like to take that mindset into joy, and how, like I was saying with the whole perspective thing of like, if you have a strong relationship with God and you've seen Him show up time and time again, you've seen Him um, work things out for your good over and over again, even if you feel like it's not, you can take what you know to be true about God. Love that. I love the alarm. I love that. The car alarms. Um, you're good. But like you can allow that to, I lost my train of thought. Dude, I lost my train of thought. So you're muted, so I can't hear you. But um you can choose to like live in a way from what you know to be true about God, and you're standing before Him, and the fact that He is working all things together for your good. You can choose to have joy and operate out of that, like, oh, I'm going to be grateful for what I do have, even if I don't feel like my life is super great right now. Like you
Totally.
can choose to operate out of that framework and allow your feelings to kind of catch up to what you know to be true about God.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely totally fair. So what would be something like you would want students to kind of glean from, specifically us sharing about, joy and what that looks like in the trials? Like, what do you think a little seventh grader should take away from us talking about this?
Man, I think a couple things. I
Yeah.
think the first is you can't expect yourself to be able to, like, pause. I don't have this thing figured out. Like
Totally.
I don't operate out of this all the time.
Great disclaimer. As always,
Yeah,
us saying
I
we don't have our crap together.
yeah, we don't have our crap together. But if I've learned anything,
Yeah.
when I'm doing this well, when I am operating out of the joy of the Lord
Yeah.
well, it is when I am seeking to know the Lord the most.
Right.
Like you can't expect to live out of what you know to be true about God that's going to bring you joy
Yeah.
when you're maybe not feeling it, when
Yeah.
you're not seeking to know who He is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't expect to get an A on a test and not study. Like you can't expect to be a Major League Baseball player without practicing. Like you
Yeah.
can't expect to be able to, in the middle of a trial, like the hardest point in your life, have peace in knowing that God is good and still being able to have joy if you
Yeah.
don't know who He is. Like if you don't know Him
Right.
well enough to trust Him in those times,
Right.
it's just not going to be possible. So I think the first thing is you just have to know Him, and you have, like, it's not a, oh, I've read the Bible one time through, now I know who God is. No, it's a daily seeking to know Him better, Like
Yeah.
you'll read a passage you've read a million times and you'll learn something new about God, you know?
Right.
And I
Right.
think the second thing is to like, how do I say this? I think junior high and high school is hard.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different emotions
Yeah.
that you are dealing with because of hormonal changes in your life.
Total, like
So
chemically, yeah, things are changing.
chemically,
Yeah.
your things are imbalanced, they're
Yeah.
changing, and so you're going to experience some feelings that maybe
Yeah.
are even more amplified than Jacob
Right.
and I will feel because
Yeah.
we're through those stages in our life. And so what I would say to you is the feelings that you're feeling, they're so real and like
Yeah.
you can't change that. But at the same time, like you have to know like that you're wrestling with like different things that like are out of your control. And you can't be mad at yourself
Right.
for being mad when you can't control that you're mad, but you can
Yeah.
choose like, okay, what's a better response to this? Am I going to just sulk and be mad and just go in my room and just turn on heavy metal and be pissed at the world all day? Or am I going
Right.
to be like, you know what, maybe I should reach out to a friend that I know is going to encourage me when I'm
Yeah.
feeling this way. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think like having grace with yourself during a time in your life where you're growing up and you're
Yeah.
experiencing a lot of weird, hard changes, and you're gonna feel emotions through that, and just having grace with yourself in that.
That's true. That's fair. What right now, what have you been reading in God's word that has brought you like joy? You know, is there
Oh man.
anything that specifically sticks out to you that you've been reading recently?
So let me. I've been like I was remember a few podcasts ago. I was telling you that I was behind in my reading plan.
Yes.
I was like 40 days behind. So I am
Uh-huh.
7 days behind now. So I've
Oh,
been reading like bulks of text. So there's
right.
nothing that like off the top of my head that I'm like, this has been
Okay.
so encouraging. But let
Sure.
me just go to um a few different things. In First Timothy 4, I did a devotional for our students about this,
Oh, yeah.
where it says,
Okay.
"Let no one look down on you for your youthfulness, but rather in speech, conduct, love, faith, purity, show yourself an example of those who believe."
Yeah.
What I love about that, and I said it to the students because I think sometimes the junior high students specifically feel like they can't do much because they're young.
Right.
Um, and I feel that way too. Like at 25,
Yeah.
a 25-year-old pastor, I feel like
Right.
I can't do much either. And so this has brought me joy in like knowing that God has placed me in a place where he wants me, and like knowing that even though I'm 25 years old, like I can conduct myself in a way that is loving, that is full of faith, that is
Right.
pure, that is being an example to people that believe. And like that has just brought me joy and like knowing that it doesn't matter my experience, it doesn't matter my um, education, that I don't have like the highest degree in the world, that I have failed so many times, yet God still is using me, and he
Yeah.
can use me in my flaws and wants me to just work really hard to be an example to people, like even
Right.
though I'm only 25 years old. You know what I mean? So that's been
Yeah.
super encouraging to me, because there's times where I'm
Yeah.
discouraged, where I'm just like, no one's going to listen to what I have to say. Like I'm
Right.
25, like me telling you that I've always wanted to write a book. Like I've, I want to, I think it's awesome, but in the back
Yeah.
of my head, I'm like, no one's going to listen to you. Like
Right.
no one cares what you have to say. And it's
Right.
just like it's given me the encouragement I need to start doing some of those things that I have always really wanted to do.
That's rad. I know as you were saying that, I thought of like Jeremiah. I think
Uh-huh.
Jeremiah was supposed to be like from the ages of 14 to 25 or something along those lines. And it says this in Jeremiah 1, I'll start in verse 4. Now the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you a prophet to the nations. Then I said, alas, Lord God, behold, I do not know how to speak because I am a youth. But the
Mm-hmm.
Lord said to me, do not say I am a youth, because everywhere I send you, you shall go, and all that I command you, you shall speak. Do not be afraid of them. for I am with you to deliver you, declares the Lord. Then the Lord stretched out his hand and touched my mouth, and the Lord said to me, behold, I have put my words in your mouth. And just how sick that is to think of,
It's
like,
so dope.
dude, homeboy was going to be a prophet to like a nation, bro. And he was like 14 to 25 out here, kid, not knowing what the freak he was doing. And God was like,
Yeah.
I have you. Like, I knew who you were going to be. I
Yeah.
created you specifically.
Yeah.
And like the words that you're going to speak are from me and not from yourself. So don't worry. Like, I got
That's
your
so sick.
back. So as you're saying that, and I think of, like, when I think of youth ministry, you're exactly right. Like, students feel like they can't, speak words of truth to their friends or deliver the gospel or talk about Jesus,
for sure.
because they're young and they don't know exactly what to say. But we see in Jeremiah, that's not true at all. Homeboy is like, I don't know how to speak. He's like, bro, I got you.
Yeah.
So
I think of that made me think of another passage that I read when I've been getting caught up in my reading plan. I can't even find it now. But I've been going through First and Second Kings, and in First and Second Kings, you see like a bunch of kings rise, make stupid decisions, fall. They raise up another king, and just like kind of this over and over cycle.
totally.
And I don't remember the name of the king, but there was a king that was raised up that was 7 years old, and it's just like,
Wow.
Granted, it's a story of like people that get raised up and then they fail, but like a dude was a king at 7.
Yeah.
And we feel like we can't invite our friend to church because we're 11 and they won't actually care, or we can't share about our faith, and it's like, dude, God's been doing this thing so much longer than us. He's got this in control, and he wants to use you to do that thing. So
yeah, that's super good, dude. That's encouraging. And this podcast has brought me joy.
It's brought me joy.
You know what I mean?
Come
Like,
on.
it was like a couple weeks ago, we were just talking about youth ministry. And at the end of the podcast, we both said, like, we really needed that. And we were, it was the podcast we were talking about what we love about youth ministry, or like why we love it so much. And so I even think this podcast has been something that has brought me joy, and like a reflection of why we do what we do, despite being in this weird time of like being on social media or having to connect only through the internet.
Yeah.
But I even think this has like brought me back to a place of like, Joshua with the stones. Like, this is, I've done this in the past and I will continue to do this.
For sure.
Like, it's okay. You're in this momentary time and it'll all go away. So
yeah.
Good.
And the 7-year-old king was Jehoash, and he
classic
started
Jehoash.
He started his reign at 7 years old and was king for 40 years.
Oh, mama.
Isn't that great? Dude, that's just crazy to me.
Mama.
Granted, it was a different time, but a 7-year-old,
right?
Dude, just king over a land.
That's terrifying.
Dude.
I don't know what I was doing when I was 7, but it wasn't being a king.
I can promise you.
I could promise.
Man.
My goodness.
This conversation has brought me joy as well.
That's good, man.
I miss you, man.
Yeah.
I miss hanging out. I miss working with you, and with the students. So this is the end of the episode. Episode 8 in the books.
Oof.
We love you guys. We will see you back for another episode soon. Later.
Deuces. This is sound.
Pew, 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 pew.
Coming soon. Don't worry. Sound effects coming soon. In like a month and a half.
Sound effects coming when we finally do it.
Anyways. Peace.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.